Welcome back from the break. You're still watching This Week on Arise News, and I'm Somna Sambo. Another reign of terror in Kogi State on Friday happened as armed thugs unleashed attacks on Social Democratic Party SDP campaign rally at Kotonkarfe community, firing gunshots multiple times at the venue and sending supporters who had gathered for the political rally in the area scampering for safety. Pictures obtained by Arise News showed a young lady lying on the floor in blood and a man injured inside a vehicle and in urgent need of medical attention, and another SUV riddled with bullets. The SDP is accusing the governing All Progressives Congress APC in the state and its governorship candidate Usman Ododo of being responsible for the attacks severally upon them, with the political situation raising serious concerns about security in the state ahead of the November 11 governorship election. Now, the political tension in Kogi comes as INEC races against time to conduct similar elections in Bayelsa and Imo states. But exactly how prepared are the political parties, security agencies, and INEC for the elections in the three states of Kogi, Bayelsa, and Imo on November 11? Well, joining us right now to help us understand the political situation in Kogi State and more is the national chairman of the Social Democratic Party, SDP, Shehu Gabam. Thank you so much.
A great pleasure.
Chairman, for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Yes. Now, let's talk about this situation. Your first accusation here is that the talks have been sponsored by the governing APC in the state, and it looks like your campaigns have been attacked almost everywhere. What made you to actually come to such a conclusion?
Well, it means it's not an accusation. It's a fact. You mentioned here in your opening remark, you obtained the videos. You saw how a young girl's life was terminated by vicious, callous people who have no respect for human decency. This is not what democracy is all about. Democracy is about the people. Democracy is not about to produce anarchists in government. What we are seeing is leaders that have turned to anarchists, that were elected to govern the people, protect lives and properties of the people. But look, I'm not holding Governor Yahaya Bello responsible. I'm holding President and Commander-in-Chief responsible. He is the commander of every deployment in Nigeria.
As President Bola Tinubu
President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. He is the one that is being tested. His will as the President Commander-in-Chief is being tested. His ability to govern Nigeria is on the test. His ability to restore law and order is on the test, because he is the President and Commander-in-Chief. He appointed the service chief from the IG of police to every service chiefs, and they are answerable to him directly. And therefore, the president's order to the service chiefs to restore law and order for election to take place in the three off-season election is the most critical thing this president can do. This is the first responsibility. This is the first national assignment critical to democracy that is going to conduct as the president and commander-in-chief. And for a president to allow security agencies at the lower level to rubbish his integrity, his image.
When you say allowing, what do you mean? Because the president was even outside the country. He just came in when this happened, but of course the service chiefs are his appointees. And of course the allegations run wild also that, I mean, political parties are having a field day like they usually do close to elections. You use talks, they use talks, the other people use talks and all of that.
If we use talk, it wouldn't have been the same. The video you just obtained, you have not seen anybody from this side or SDP side as a talk holding any gun. It's clear, it's very clear too. Wherever the president is on earth, is the president and commander of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Wherever the president is on earth, he's not lacking communication or intelligence, anywhere he is in the world, anywhere.
Do you think people close to the president are abusing the privilege and using maybe security forces against the opposition?
You know, my experience in the executive shows that if you have a very good advisors around you, if you have people who believe in you, believe in your sources, they will not allow you to fail. There are proactive measures based on transfer of trust and confidence the president did to them, you know, to handle certain issues. They would have taken more proactive steps to restore law and order and decency. In some of these places where anarchy have prevailed, killings and maiming and barbarism have prevailed, and president have people that he have trusted and transferred this trust to them.
Now, did you seek security protection from those people?
The National Assembly cleared them. They went through the process of National Assembly. So not just the arm of the executive, even the National Assembly as a body that have an oversight function have a responsibility to restore law and order in Nigeria. Now, what you saw in Kogi State, it wasn't just a yesterday issue. I narrated, I think 2 days ago or yesterday, that even when Natasha Apoti was our candidate, we went through same barbarism. What we are going through today. And look, we campaigned through our Kogi State. There was no incident where violence was recorded. Now you can see visibly, innocent young girl choose to be a Democrat, choose to participate in a political party rally. Somebody decided to cut off her life.
And I'm asking Shehu Gabam, did you seek police protection ahead of these rallies? I mean, your governorship candidate and all of that. And if the policemen were there, what exactly did they do to dissuade these thugs? You can see
that the police have repelled the attack that are attached to the gubernatorial candidate Murtala Ajaka. It would have been worse. Only God knows the number of lives would have lost. The security men attached to him officially repelled some of those thugs. Now, whether we seek security authority, permission or not, look, we went up to the court seeking for the protection of the candidate, and court graciously granted that order. And court directed that he should be beefed up with security all over him. Not only that, there was no single incident that took place in Kogi without us documenting, notifying the security agencies that such activities is going to take. It's documented. And we have acknowledgement copied. Look, we are not to trade blames. This country belongs to us. Nobody has a monopoly of Nigeria. The president have no monopoly of Nigeria. We are all Nigerian. We are stakeholders in this country.
Well, Governor Yaya Bello, being the governor of Kogi State, is supposed to guarantee protection for everyone as the chief security officer of the state. Have you by chance also heard from him? Since you have said that you are isolating him, maybe it's thugs that are loyal to the APC that are doing this and all of that. Has he in any way been able to play a critical role in providing you a level playing field to actually, for your governorship candidate to exercise his franchise? Because coincidentally, your governorship candidate was also a member of the APC and a national executive member of the APC, an NWC member.
You know, you are a very experienced journalist. There are things that when you heard them, you know either they are real or they are fake. I've not spoken to Yaya Bello for any reason. The reason why I'm isolating him, I don't want to overburden him. Because
there is the chief security officer of the state.
Well, he is conversant with what is going on in the state. If the chief security officer of the state, by definition, by operation, there should be no breakdown of law and order that he will not be aware of. Nobody should take law into his hands that the governor have not been briefed. Those commissioners around him, advisors around him should have told him that, look, this is your second time in office. You are an outgoing governor. You need to lay a template of peace, unity, and prosperity of the state. Hand over a government in a very decent, responsible manner that legacy will record you as such. There is no single benefit any governor have recorded in Nigeria by instituting violence and leaving a legacy of violence behind, and history was kind to him. There was none. Go and check all those who have been governors today. They are even looking for what to eat. Look, the law of karma is at the doorstep of everybody today.
Well, do Nigerian politicians believe in the law of karma?
Well, not Nigerian politicians alone. but let me tell you
many of them will tell you that it doesn't count.
It is beyond the politicians. I say politicians are culpable based on what is going on. The journalists are culpable. The lawyers are culpable.
In what
the professors are culpable. They all participated. Look, part of the tragedy that is happening today, a classified or a very sensitive information, the Nigerian press will come across it. But because there's a transfer of loyalty, or they have loyalty to their bosses who's involved in the whole thing, they'll try to cover it, which is a disservice to the country. And we cannot continue this way and expect this country to stand on its feet.
You will say some media, now, because we at Arise News, we have tried to actually do the best that we can and practice our journalism profession based on the constitutional definition of the functions given to us in Section 22.
I cherish what you said, but my statement is not a general statement. And you know that I'm right. And you know that this country has been compromised by all the segments of the society in one way or the other, not the whole of the citizens. Innocent people that are dying in the villages, maimed and killed, what do you call that? What is the repertoire of it? Innocent lives that are dying every day in the villages. The one you saw in Kogi was the one that was captured, shot, with gun, with bullet, shot and killed. I saw the one yesterday, belongs to one civil society organization, entering a taxi in Abuja. She was killed.
All right, we've tried to actually get information from the police if many arrests have been made, and of course what we keep hearing is that investigations are ongoing and all of that. But do you think that this is a targeted attempt at silencing the opposition? Not just Kogi State, of course you have Bayelsa and Imo, where lots of violence is ongoing at the moment ahead of the elections. What do you think the opposition can do, and then how can the federal government, create a level playing field for all parties?
I really, to be honest with you, as an operative, I'm not a lecturer. I've gone through the theory of politics. I'm in the practical aspect of it. I'm versed in it and I'm operative in it. I don't know what an opposition party can do. What opposition party can do is to draw the attention of the authority that are concerned, to document their problem. Because the history of our politics is that once you are in government, you are an emperor. And anybody who is in the opposition is an enemy camp. So he can be crushed, not minding the consequences the country is going to go through. Now, virtually all the opposition parties, apart from PDP that have muscle to fight, we are at the mercy of the government or the president that have sworn an oath of office to protect life and property and provide a level field for everybody. And now, that's why I'm not mentioning INEC in any way. In the situation where violence, anarchy have entrenched, there's nothing INEC can do. INEC cannot conduct election. It's part of the law. So if we are to conduct election in the 3 off-season states, it means the executive arm of the government that defined the independence of INEC must be up and doing. That's what defined the independence of INEC. Because when the executive did not deploy adequate security and conducive environment, you cannot call the INEC chairman and accuse him. They are not responsible because their independence is limited. It's tied to the order, complete exercise, patriotism being displayed by security agencies that belongs to Nigeria. They were not brought in from any foreign country.
So in other words, INEC's independence and performance is also tied to how other arms of government play their role.
Absolutely.
Very interesting submission there.
Absolutely.
But Shehu Gabam, let's talk about why the SDP is the particular party that's complaining or that's being hit with violence in Kogi State. Is it that maybe by chance the governing APC is thinking that the SDP and its candidate has the potential of winning the election? Or what exactly is making SDP to be the prime target of these attacks by thugs or whoever it is
I will give you 2 examples. You are very familiar with it. You can take the example what Dino Malaya went through. He was in the PDP, he was in opposition. You know the trajectory of what he went through. So, we live in a country, once you have what it takes to challenge or to have issues or to think of taking power from people who are elected, and you will go through the process of election, you are a target. Our candidate is a target in Kogi because he is the major force today to determine the outcome of the election. Not because of Murtala Ajaka. Murtala Ajaka is a major force that will determine the outcome of Kogi election. And therefore, he is a target of disruption by those that are in authority, who feel that he has no right, he has no authority, he has no constitutional provision unless they provided for him as a citizen of Nigeria. And as somebody who belonged to the same party that they were before, they were fraternizing each other before. But then it's a different ball game together. He moved into my party. I have a moral duty, moral responsibility to protect him as my candidate. I have declared him as the candidate of the party just the way they declared other candidates of other parties. What we are saying is that we are not seeking for any special favor. No. Mr. President, this is a testing ground for you. This is the first election you will conduct. After this official election, you have Ondo and then Edo states that is coming. INEC have released timetable as well. Now, the kind of environment you have provided, the kind of deterrence you have directed, will determine how this democracy will go. We are living in a very fragile system within the African sub-regions, where democracy is under threat, where democracy is being subverted. And then we live at one of the biggest country, most populated country in Africa. And then we've been experimenting this democracy since 1999. We are even learning how to say thank you. We as Nigerians, based on our level of exposure, our level of education, our level of commitment, that today we have no right to exercise what the Constitution has provided for us. And then you have president after president not learning their lesson. And you have a history also where those that are in power, military head of state died in office, nothing happened. Elected president that have left outstanding legacy, let Umaru Yar'Adua, died in office. Is a reference point today. He allowed the rule of law to prevail. Look at what he did in Niger Delta to restore law and order. And then briefly also, you have President Obasanjo, who created the tyrants when the governors were becoming emperors in their states. He restored normalcy. The governor went on their knees. They subjected themselves to the law and order.
Is that what you're asking President Tinubu to do?
He must do it because
maybe the governors are holding our democracy to hostage.
Let me tell you, there is no freedom that is unlimited, and there is no immunity that is unlimited. But because you have institutions that have been weakened, the state assembly that have powers to checkmate excesses of the governors, safety of their state, safety of their citizens, they are not doing their job. So the governors have become emperors, taking local government funds, pushing weaponization of poverty. People cannot breathe. And you think we are normal? And you think the country is normal? And nobody should have the guts to speak? We have the guts to speak. We are a product of guts. And we'll speak.
All right.
The country belongs to all of us.
You have 3 to 4 big political parties in Kogi State that are canvassing for votes and all of that. We have the PDP, we have, of course, the APC, we have the SDP, and then, of course, other political parties that are there. As we try to round off this conversation, you brought the issues of democratic tenets and why the president should ensure that everyone plays their role very well to ensure that there's a level playing field. In all of this, we've excluded the voters. And that's where I want you to speak to the voters now.
Yes.
There's an overwhelming fear that if the federal government does not allow the elections in this off-season election in these 3 states to go ahead in such a way that there's a level playing ground, that there may be a lot of people withdrawing from voting, that there will be a lot of voter apathy, and this may actually shame the sort of democracy that we have. What would be your advice to new voters, people who are enthusiastic to elect new governors especially? 2023
election have sufficiently explained the point you have raised. A country that have registered voters over 90 million end up with about producing 8-something million votes for president. A country that have over 70% registered voters, those 70% youths and women, will determine a president to the councillor in Nigeria. The younger generation must understand that the future of the country lies in their ability to make their choices devoid of being monetized. Once you monetize your franchise, you laid that example. Nobody can save this country. We are either going for a democracy or we restructure the time of democracy that we are running to another model that suits our peculiarities and our system. Because this democracy seems it's not working.
Well, some
we have
people
not learned our lesson.
Africans are beginning to think of something called maybe Afrimocracy.
It's inevitable.
Which will be different because you will see the Guinean president and others saying that, look, this sort of democracy that the West is asking us to practice doesn't just seem to be working.
It's not working. Look, we went through turbulence in 1999 to even form the political parties. My boss, was the founder from G7. He was arrested and sent to prison. We have seen more than what anybody can imagine. We transversed Nigeria. There's no state in Nigeria that I have not visited. I know every actor in every state of the federation. Why are we submissive to people who have inferior thinking, lack capacity to drive a system? But because they have gotten ill wealth, we submitted our rights, our privilege, and the country in their own hands. And therefore, They have mortgaged the system.
They are holding us hostage.
They are holding us hostage.
Okay.
So we are all responsible, both the young, the elderly ones. Today, you have no any elder that can come out and talk. They are afraid. This is what Nigeria have turned into. Is that democracy? Is that what we voted for?
But even when the young people want to exercise their rights, or voters generally, in the face of insecurity like this, I mean, who would want to risk his or her life?
I love my life, but I can sacrifice for the country. I don't care. I'm telling you the truth.
Can you sacrifice your own life for Nigerian democracy?
Look, we did. I was arrested before. This is not the first time.
So what do we do?
Our leaders have gone through turbulent arrest, persecution. It's just that we choose to be modest. We choose to keep the nerves calmed.
Well,
we don't want the
President Tinubu went through the same, and he was a member of the National Democratic Coalition, NADECO, and all of that.
It's the reason
what
why,
would be your closing message to President Tinubu, being the person who is in charge of the system now?
He was on exile. He was persecuted. He was persecuted, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And one of the reasons why some of us believe that he will do better than Buhari is because he have that experience of persecution.
But now his party is being called to question. I mean,
well, it is not about his party. The ball stopped at his text as the president and commander-in-chief. It's not bipartisan right now. He has sworn an oath to protect life of every Nigerian, irrespective of party, whether they voted for him or not. It's the reason why I'm saying that the ball stopped at his text. It's not about governors. It's about him calling his service chiefs. Do the right thing. Otherwise, I will take the hit. Posterity will record it under my administration. Just the way posterity recorded President Muhammadu Buhari.
Shehu Gabam, I mean, it's been a tough call. And of course, the voters and supporters in Kogi State continue to bear the hit, like you've said. We are all hoping that security agencies will continue to do the best. And like we've heard here, what they owe this country is to prepare the country in such a mood that we have elections that are organized in such a way that there's a level playing field for all, irrespective of the political parties that they are in. Because, I mean, the governing APC today was sometime, I mean, just 10 years ago, an opposition party that was seeking power. So if they're in power, there's a lot of responsibilities that come with being in power, in charge of government. So it's our call on the security agencies, the INEC, and voters and everybody, including the opposition political parties themselves, to do the best to guarantee a free, fair, and conducive environment where elections are held without fear or favor. And that's how much we can take in this edition of This Week. Thanks so much to our production team here in Abuja, Lagos, and London to join us same time next week for another exciting edition. I'm Somna Sambo.